Hey grade 8s, welcome to our lesson on Tuesday. We're starting a new unit today. I have my daughter Kira here who's helping me out. She's my Vanna White. And we're going to do some probability stuff today. It's a new concept for us. Maybe you've done it before, maybe you haven't. It's a really simple one though, and there's not too much to know. So there's a couple things we're going to talk about. When you talk about probability, that's the chance of something happening. It's not a guaranteed thing, it's just the probability. Like the chance of rain today, it might be 10%. It's pretty low. But that doesn't mean it can't rain. Or I could say the chance of rain is 90%. It doesn't mean it is going to rain. It's just the chance of something happening. So to calculate probability, you have to do a couple of things. The very first thing that you need is a fraction. You have to have a fraction. So Kira wrote this up here for us. You have a fraction, and a fraction is made of two parts. A top number and a bottom number. The top number is called the numerator, the bottom is the denominator. You don't really need to know those terms, but you need to know what they do, okay? So once you've created a fraction, we'll go back to that in a minute, then you need to make a percent from that fraction. And the percent is really easy. It's top number divided by bottom number times 100. So in this example, 1 out of 2, 1 divided by 2 is decimal 5, times 100 is 50%. So this is actually the example of flipping a coin. And this is where the numbers come from. Okay, so every time I flip a coin, I have two possible outcomes. It can land on the head side, or it can land on the tail side. So my total possible outcomes, that's my denominator. So when I roll a dice, a single dice, a six-sided die, my denominator is going to be a 6, because there's 6 possible outcomes. If I draw a card from a deck of cards, there's 52 cards in the deck. So the chance of drawing a specific card is 1 out of 52, right? Because there's 52 there. If I had a spinner that had 6 different colors on it, my denominator would be 6. If I had a spinner with 3 different colors on it, my denominator would be 3. So the denominator is the chance, the number of different outcomes you could possibly have. Okay, so that's the first thing you need to do. The second thing you need to do is you need to write the numerator. And the numerator is how many different ways can you get that outcome. So if I were to do this, maybe I'll get Kira to write this. The probability of getting a tail, you would write it like this. You go P for probability, and then T in brackets. No, not the equals yet.
Oh, not equals.
Probability with a T.
PT?
T in brackets.
Oh, okay.
There we go. Yeah, good. Yeah, bracket. Equals. Okay, so this is flipping a coin. Now she's going to make an empty fraction, so just a line, right? We don't put numbers in it yet. The bottom number is where I always start. And there's only 2 possible outcomes. There's the tails outcome, there's the heads outcome. So we're going to write a 2 down there. Okay? Now, the probability of tails, well, there is only one way to land on the tail side, right? So it's 1 up here. Okay, now we know this probably, or you may or may not. If you don't, it's really easy. To make this into a percent, you would write, or you would, on your calculator, 1 divided by 2 times 100, and you'd get 50%. So the probability of tails is 50%. Now what I'm going to do with you now, I'm going to get Kira to record some flips, just to see if we actually get 50%. So here we go, you ready? We'll just do 10 to see if this works. Okay, so here's the first one. Tails. So just write a T for tails. Second one. T for tails. Okay. Third one. T for tails. What is going on here? It's supposed to be heads, tails, right? Okay, keep going. Heads. Tails. Is that 5?
Mm-hmm.
Heads. Heads. Okay, 3 more to make 10. Heads. Heads. Wow. Tails. Okay. Oh, that's crazy. Okay. So if we look at our 10 flips, we have 5 tails and 5 heads. That doesn't work out very often that way. That was kind of lucky that I did that. Usually I end up with 4 and 6 or 3 and 7 or something like that. But probability doesn't really work super well over a short sample, over a short term. It works out really well over a long term. I could flip this 20 times and it'd be very likely to get 12 and 8 or 13 and 7. But if I did it 100 times, I would get closer to 50%. If I did it 1,000 times, I'd get closer to 50%. So the larger the sample size, the more times I flip this coin, the more accurate it's going to be. Okay, but over the short term, it doesn't. All right, that's probability. Literally, that's all there is to it. That's single outcome probability. If I were to do multiple, that changes it a little bit, but we'll save that for tomorrow. Okay, so first thing you need to do is make a fraction, and that's the way we do it this way. Okay, so maybe erase that, Kira, and let's talk about a spinner. Okay, so I have this spinner. Some games have spinners, and let's say my spinner looked like this, and I had red, blue, yellow, and orange. Okay, and I had this spinner that was, you spin it around and it points to one of the outcomes. Okay, what is the probability that it's going to be on blue? Right? Well, you make a fraction like this. The bottom is the total number of outcomes. I could get red, I could get blue, I could get orange, I could get yellow. So there's 4 outcomes. And how many ways are there of getting blue? Well, there's 1 way. So the probability of blue is 1 out of 4. 1 divided by 4 times 100 is 25%. So the probability of blue is 25%. Right? That makes sense, right? What if my spinner looked like this, though? Okay? And then I said, what's the probability of blue? Well, I have blue, blue, yellow, yellow. Or blue, blue, yellow, orange. Right? Well, now, there's still 4 different outcomes, okay? But 2 of them are blue. So the probability of blue is 2 out of 4. 2 divided by 4 times 100 is now 50%, right? So that's the way you do it. What other example could I do? Kids in a class. What is the probability of boys versus girls, right? You could make that prediction based on the population of Canada, right? And make an extrapolation from that. You could we talked about already, rolling a die, 6-sided die. Well, if I rolled a 6-sided die, there's 6 different outcomes. What if it was one of those like Dungeons and Dragons dice that had 20 sides on it, right? Well, then my denominator would be 20. So the probability of 3 would be 1 out of 20, because there's only 1 3 out of 20 times. That's about it. So you make a fraction, you make a percent, and then recognize that this is not a science that has a foregone conclusion. It's not written in stone. Probability changes. It just means the chance of something happening, the likelihood of something happening. Okay, so there's a short worksheet to go with this work today. Happy that you came here to watch the video. Thanks, Kira, for all your help. And we'll talk to you guys tomorrow.